the United Kingdom will be celebrating the coronation of their King Charles III this weekend. He, together with the Queen Consort, Camilla, will be crowned at Westminster Abbey. The King ascending to the throne following the death of his mother, Queen Elizabeth II, last September. So what can we expect from the coronation? Let's discuss that and a whole range of other issues with Dr. Craig Prescott, who is with the School of History, Law and Social Sciences at Bangor University. Dr. Prescott, it's great to have you with us here on the program in South Africa. Thank you for joining us. 70 years between the last coronation and this one. What's going to be different?
Good morning. It's very good to join you. In many ways, it's going to be a story of similarities, but also some changes. The core of the coronation service is going to be the same as it was in 1953, indeed as it has been for hundreds of years. In particular, we're going to see the King and the Queen both go through the process of being anointed, which is where they get holy oil will be placed on them. We won't see this for the King, this will be out of camera, but we'll see this for the Queen. And that's the most sacred part of the ceremony, which is a Church of England service, fundamentally. But there are many changes. There are 12 new pieces of music. We're going to see the diversity of the UK reflected for the first time, with the involvement of other faiths as well, even though it is a Church of England service. And we're going to hear the Welsh language, Irish Gaelic and Scots Gaelic spoken and sung for the first time in a coronation, reflecting that the UK is now viewed as a union of 4 nations, of England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland. So something similar to 53, but something's very different.
Attempts perhaps at putting forward a more progressive monarchy in a more progressive society?
Yes, that's very much the intention, because the UK as a society is not the same as it was in 53. In 53, we still had all the lords in the abbey, so all those who were dukes or viscounts or barons who had a title and owned large tracts of land, reflecting the monarchy as the head of an aristocracy. Whereas that's not the case now in 2023. The those attending are going to be very, very different, going to be drawn from all walks of life, and reflecting that the monarchy is really now the head of public service, of doing good in the community, or things like the civil service or government or the police or other aspects of society. So trying to reflect the monarchy and what it does today.
There's obviously a lot of fanfare, there's a lot of pomp and ceremony. There are obviously members of the British public who are very much looking forward to tomorrow's coronation. They'll be tuning in, they'll be a part of it as much as they can. But having said that, what is the sense of buy-in in the UK ahead of tomorrow?
I think it's been growing as the week has gone on. That there is genuinely, I'm in London at the moment, and there is genuinely, when you get round the palace and the Abbey, where I was yesterday, a genuine sense of excitement. But you are right that it isn't shared by everyone, but it's you are free to view the proceedings or go about your lives however you wish, really. So, it is a matter of choice as much as anything.
Yeah. There's a lot of discussion, about the tone of the coronation, even some discussion around, why it should go ahead, given that there's been 70 years since the last coronation, particularly because it's going out to a much younger audience. There's a lot of cultural symbolism, as you described to us, that's being included in tomorrow's coronation. but there's a lot of Christian religious symbolism in a nation that is no longer a Christian majority, right? And of course, as always, there's the discussion around the relevance of the monarchy, whether an unelected political head of state in the form of King Charles should even exist. You know, what's the sentiment around that kind of discussion?
So you are right about the fact that this is a Christian Church of England service, and they have tried to broaden it out in the way that I've outlined. In terms of having a king, that still seems to be popular in the UK. There is still solid support, around 65%, to retain the monarchy. To move to a republic has sort of stayed pretty much around 20%. So it is still a fairly marginal sort of campaign to move to a republic. They've been quite loud over the past few months. They viewed the sort of Charles coming to the throne as an opportunity, but as yet it hasn't really made any headway. And I think it has to be remembered that in principle all political power is exercised by the Prime Minister and the House of Commons, and that the role of the King is sort of largely ceremonial, which is common to several, many heads of state around the world, whether they're a monarchy or a republic. So there are different models that different countries have.
Whether Charles should make a case to the British people on why he should be king, on why he's the best person for the job, why the monarchy is still relevant in a progressive democratic society. Do you reckon that the argument in response to that is, as you say, that around 65% of the public are still in favor of the monarchy, and so there is sort of democracy in that?
Yes, I think the way to view this is that the king, the monarchy as an institution, is in a constant conversation with the British people, and that the monarchy isn't static. It changes over time in what it does, the causes it takes up, the people that members of the royal family meet, to try and reflect British life as it is at any particular moment. And it's always striving to maintain its relevance and maintain its popularity amongst a broad section of British society, ultimately. In a sense, it realises that no one votes for it, so it needs to work hard to ensure that it has around 60% or so supporting it. So it's a different thing to party politics and what politicians need to do, which is to get enough to get elected. The monarchy needs a broader base of support than that, and it's constantly trying to maintain that.
Yeah, it's a different thing, right? Maintaining relevance is one thing, but it's difficult to make a case for how in touch the monarchy can certainly be with the working class.
Yes, that has always been a particular issue, and I think it can do this by some of the causes that it takes up. And what it can do is provide an antidote to party politics, and sometimes for political issues, party politics avoids certain difficult topics. I'm thinking about what the Queen Camilla has done as regards domestic violence, where she has brought attention to this issue of domestic violence, particularly against women, over the past few years, and sort of drawing attention to what charities are doing in this area, which is just something that you don't necessarily hear about very often via the more typical political processes. So in that way, it adds to our public life and adds to the sort of things that we discuss, and it maintains its relevance amongst the working classes and others through that type of activity.
Dr. Craig Prescott, it's been a pleasure getting your perspective this morning on the coronation of King Charles III taking place tomorrow. Dr. Prescott, thanks very much for joining us.